Delighted to be here. What I'm going to do is say a little bit about the REC, just so that everyone's aware of exactly who we are. I'm sure many of you have been through our qualifications and are aware of the business and what we do, but it's always useful to start off with a bit of a recap. And then, as Mike said, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking to you about what's going on in the marketplace. You know, we do a lot of research. We really try and track what's going on in the recruitment space. What I'll try and do is do a big picture. So we'll look at the economy. We'll look at what's gone on in the last year, 18 months, and I'll then start to talk about what we think will happen over the next few years in terms of the size of the market and some of the trends. And then my final bit, before I get dragged off, because that's what normally happens to me. Normally I get half an hour and at 35 minutes people are doing this. So if I get that signal, I'll sort of stop. But I want to talk a little bit about how you build long-term relationships with clients and how you add value. We've done quite a lot of research with the CIPD and the HR community and the procurement community, and I really want to just share that with you because I think it's a huge tool in your armoury when you're trying to build client relationships. Okay, let's start. I've gone the wrong way. That's always a good start, isn't it? So let's go. So the REC, first of all, we've been around 80 years this year, which is great. You know, for any organisation to survive 80 years, it must be doing something right. And again, there was a merger in 2000 between FRES, which was the trade association, and the IEC, which was the individual proposition. We've got 3,700 corporate members. So that'll involve, if you like, the big players in the marketplace, your Randstads, your Manpowers, Hayes, Michael Page. But we go right the way down to the small start-up business. So we represent the broad church of recruitment. We also have, if you like, lots of sub-brands and different groups that focus on different specialisations. So we have a group that's associated with just the executive space called the Association of Executive Recruiters. We've got the IMA, which is the group that we use to represent the interim management marketplace. And then we've got industrial specialisms, whether it's IT and technology, whether it's drivers, so we've got basically a way of making sure our members get the right type of service from their trade association. The other thing, and again, I will sort of just emphasise this in a moment, because it does make us quite unique as a trade association representing the recruitment marketplace, is that we have an individual membership offering, which is, you know, now called the Institute of Recruitment Professionals. And the reason why we rebranded last year was because we believe this is really strategically important for the industry. Not only do we have standards as a trade association, but individuals within recruitment need to be professional. So they need to be qualified or be a member of a professional institute by experience. So I'll talk a bit about that. So that's who we are. We've been around a long time. We represent the whole of the recruitment industry. And our job is to do a number of things for recruitment businesses. Firstly, I suppose, is to represent them. We spend a lot of time talking to government, which is hugely exciting, as you can imagine, about either legislation that's already there and how we can improve that and make it less burdensome. Plus, we also talking to the government or potential governments as well about what's coming up. So the Agency Workers Directive, what they're doing with pensions, what they're doing in vetting and barring. We basically take positions on behalf of you guys, our members, and try and make it as conducive an environment for you to operate in as possible. So that's our main job. Within that, we do qualifications, we do business advice. There's a whole range of different services and products, which I won't go into in detail. I thought this would be a good slide to share with you, because what this is around is how we present, if you like, REC membership to your clients and how we propose. So I've done 73 events in the last 6 months talking to HR directors or procurement directors about REC membership. And this is what we talk about. This is your way, we say to them, of managing risk. Yeah, there's lots of recruitment businesses, for whatever reasons, that have got perhaps not as good a reputation as we would like. So what we say to them is, always ask whether the recruitment business that you're going to work with is a member of the REC. Because this is how we basically manage risk. There's a code of professional conduct that you sign up to. I have 4 inspectors that do nothing but inspect our own members. They do 35 inspections a month. We go to 400 businesses. And actually, we find lots of our members haven't kept up to date with legislation. So we help them comply. So again, that's important. We have a complaints procedure. Any candidate or any client can make a complaint about a REC member. That's investigated. I've got a whole team of people. The standards team of the REC is our biggest team. And they look into that. We get about 100 complaints a month. We investigate it. And if we find there's been, poor practice or things haven't gone the right way, we take that to our standards committee. Our standards committee, which has the CBI and the TUC on it. So any complaint or anybody that has an inspection who fouls it and then doesn't put things in place, we take to our standards committee. And we've thrown out about 7 organisations in the last year. But what's really important is actually when we get to that stage of something being taken to our standards committee, most MDs, chief executives go, actually, I don't really want to be thrown out by my trade association. So they put things in place to make sure they're compliant. So that's what we're there to do, to basically raise the bar and make sure recruitment businesses are complying with everything that they should do, the law and our code of conduct. And the second thing we say to clients on your behalf is also ask the question about how many members of the organisation that you're working with have got qualified individuals within their consultancy pool. So how many of them are members of the IRP? Because there's a code of conduct associated with that. And again, you have to have gone through to be a fellow, you have to have 10 years experience and pass the exams. So what we're trying to do on your behalf is say to your clients, always ask the question, are you working with an REC member and how many of their consultants are IRP members? Let me sort of move on. So this is a sort of a question to you really, bit of audience participation. So what's it felt like in the last 18 months? I'll tell you a bit about how it's felt for me. Before coming to the REC, I was the HR director at Royal Mail for 4.5 years. Interesting job. Spent the last year doing a pay deal that they're still going on strike about 2 years later. So it must have been a good deal. But again, it was a tough job, It's 165,000 people. My spend on recruitment was over 50 million. So, it was a big operation. Lots of temporary work, lots of industrial relations, lots of development activity. And I thought that was a tough job until I came here, because my father always said to me, timing's everything. Yeah? And the recruitment industry had grown, second fastest growing industry in the UK, up until 2007, 2008. 635% in 15 years. Fantastic growth. However, it sort of started to change in the middle of 2008, just as someone arrived from their previous job. So the last 18 months, I think, has felt a bit like this. It's felt like you've gone off a cliff, and it is really about how far and how fast are we going to go down and when's it going to stop. So even if you and ARM has survived and has done very well by the looks of the results, you're having to work that much harder. It's not the same marketplace as it was 2 years ago. Margins are under pressure. Clients want you to do a lot more for than they would have done previously. So even if you're surviving, you're having to work twice as hard to survive.